Hello and welcome to our preview of the week ahead. This week may see a lot of focus on speakers out at the Fed, given last week's FOMC rate decision. As a quick reminder, as well as keeping rates on hold, the FOMC rhetoric was more dovish than expected, with highlighting the fact that the concerns over US labour market as well as the wider global economy. As such, we have seen a hawks out in force over the weekend, trying to suggest a slightly different slant on it, with the likes of Bullard, Lockhart and Williams all already have spoken. So Williams suggested that it was a close call and a rate hike remains on course for this year, while Bullard and Lockhart went a little bit further and was slightly more hawkish, suggesting it is already appropriate to raise rates. The rest of the week will see a continuation of a number of Fed speakers after the recent blackout period, with the likes of George, Yellen, both scheduled to speak, as well as Bullard scheduled to speak once again. It will be interesting to hear all of these comments considering the decision earlier. However, it will be particularly interesting to see whether Yellen sticks with the fairly dovish rhetoric seen last week, or whether she decides instead to focus on the fact that the Fed is still on course to hike rates this year. Away from the Fed, over in Europe, we have seen the Greek election over the weekend, with Syriza winning and therefore remaining in power, albeit in a coalition, with a greater win than expected. This has not moved financial markets, but is of interest, with the likes of Goldman Sachs earlier suggesting that the biggest danger would be that there would be no clear winner and that negotiations would stop the implementation of reforms taking place. Elsewhere this week sees German IFO data, and this may be particularly in attention, and that's because of the German ZEW last week come missing on expectations by a rather substantial margin. So that German IFO data, that takes place on Thursday. So once again, to recap out of the US, highlights will probably be on the Fed speakers, while in Europe there is the key IFO data, while elsewhere data flow is relatively light. That's all from me. I hope you have a great trading week.